These black children are practicing suicide, and they are trying to encourage other black children to genocide. White supremacists have long known that when it comes to getting attention from white men, especially those who seem to have some form of authority, that a majority of black women are hot to trot. Racist coaches like Jerry Sandusky have known it since time immemorial. All these white coaches that you see pretending to be surrogate father to these black kids, you want to know why? It's because they know that that's how you make this black kid loyal to you. The kid grew up without a father, so you'll be a surrogate father for a little bit, but just long enough to get this black buck to go ahead and make some touchdowns and to improve your own white career prospects. That's all there's really about. You're grooming this black child here to be a racehorse meant to improve your condition, not his. Black kids are deprived of a father figure, and black women are looking for white validation. That is a recipe for genocide. This leads black women to happily hand their kids over to the very animals who are killing them. The white media can't manufacture these kind of lying images without black people helping them to create them. We need to impose a penalty on black people who help give aid and comfort to white supremacists in time of war. Because that's what this is. This is treason. You're aiding and comforting the enemy in time of war. And if you want to see how bad the situation can get, I want you to see this image. Devontae Hart. He and his siblings were given up for adoption to a couple of white supremacist lesbians who systematically starved these children, beat these children, and then murdered these children, but not before having some really sick fun with them and using Devontae to try to counter the reality of what was going on at the Ferguson protests. See, those white supremacist lesbians, as far as they were concerned, we're going to kill these kids, but before we do, we want to help get out there. We want to use these kids. We want to really abuse them. Yeah, we've beaten them and starved them and psychologically brutalized them, but that ain't enough. Hey, I know, while all these black people are out here protesting the killing of black youth by the police, we're going to use these black kids who we've been beating and torturing, we're going to use them to manufacture a photo op that black children love the police. Hey, Devontae, you better go over there and hug that white cop. Otherwise, you and your siblings are going to get it when we get home. This is the mentality behind the psychopaths who use black children to give propaganda cover to the thugs in blue. This is not a victimless crime. What happened to Devontae Hart was not some fluke. It wasn't some anomaly. It wasn't some tragic happenstance. This is the predictable, desired, intended end result of using black children to help the police through some PR stunt. This is the point of it. The point of it is to get the public to go, well, we know the blacks are saying that the police are killing black folks in the streets, but here's this photograph, so it can't be as bad as all that. Whoa, the police just did it again. Oh, but here's this other photograph of this silly kid in Fort Worth standing with a cop, so it can't be as bad. Oh, they just killed Charlena Lyles. Well, but wait, here's Stephon Clark buck dancing for some butter biscuits. Yeah, what happens is the white media makes sure to promote that stuff so that basically you got a tennis match going. It's back and forth, portraying both sides as if both sides have a point, or at the very least, the black point isn't really as important as the white one. Because as long as white supremacy has the upper hand, there is no such thing as splitting the difference necessarily, because the bad guys have the advantage. So it's not a matter of all things being equal. The bad guys have the overwhelming advantage. What needs to happen here is for the needle to be moved. And white supremacy's job is to make sure that even if the needle moves a little bit, you push that thing right back where it was. These kind of lies are not merely dangerous, they are lethal. They are genocidal. To the black hood rats who allowed their children to be put in this position, who put their children in this position, they're not making friends with the police. This Blake kid talking about how he wants to make friends with the police, that's the last thing that's going to happen. You don't make friends with a rabid dog. And these guys are all about scoping out the next black child who they're going to kill. And why do you see so many black mothers who are eager to do this crap? Well, you've probably heard of the psychological condition Munchausen syndrome by proxy. Basically, what it means is you've got mothers who will subject their children to hideous abuse and torture as a means of getting attention for themselves. They'll tell everybody, oh, my child is sick again, and they'll make sure to bring folks by, oh, pray for my child. My child's sick again, and oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. And they do that as a means to get attention for themselves. They can be the poor, downtrodden, long-suffering mother who has just been cursed to have to bear the burden of watching her child suffering by no fault of her own, of course. You got these mothers who will poison their children, and usually if this whole Munchausen syndrome by proxy is not stopped, in a lot of cases they kill their own children. They put their children in harm's way so that they can brag to the other hood rats that their kids were shown in the white media. That's what's happening here with this Blake kid and a lot of these others. They don't care about the police. They don't care about Tamir Rice, who wouldn't give a damn even if you told them about him. They don't care about their own children. They only care about themselves. Some other black parents do this as a form of begging white supremacy not to kill their children. Well, I got news for these cowards. You're not humanizing black children to these murderers. You cannot do that. You are emboldening these killers to come after your child next. That's what happens when you call yourself having your child taking photos with the police. There's practically no example in all of human history where you have some otherwise unwitting party who calls himself standing next to the people who are going to be attacking him or are preying on him or who otherwise are at odds with him, and that has a happy ending. If you have the aggressor and the people being aggressed against, you're not going to find a way to humanize yourself to them. They look at you as the next target. Now, cowards and hood rats think that by letting their kids meet these thugs that the white cops are going to remember their child. Well, I want them to remember Blake. I want them to remember Devontae. I want them to remember Tamir Rice. I want them to remember Stephon Clark. Well, yeah, they're going to remember that black child all right. But it ain't going to be for any friendly reasons. These murderers are looking for soft targets. And there's no target less protected than black children because of black children's parents who refuse to protect them. And it is not okay for this to go on. You're dangling your children in front of venomous vipers. Well, those of us who got our heads on straight, who actually understand the real world, we have to have a zero-tolerance policy for this kind of treason. We have to call it out in no uncertain terms, but more importantly than that, this is the reason why it is vital that we have and that we use a punishment/discipline mechanism in the black community. Why do we have all of this out-of-pocket behavior? It's because these clowns know that they can do this and not pay a price for it. Well, as far as they're concerned, they're not going to be paying a price from us. But of course, as we all know, white supremacy is going to exact that price, and it's going to be a price that's so high that they can't pay it. We do not allow black children to be in the presence of these thugs. It is unacceptable for any black person to encourage the enforcement arm of white supremacy, either through being subservient to them or trying to otherwise curry their favor. You give the bad guys rhetorical cover, and you give them some propaganda images that they can hide behind. Whenever you see images like this, these are the thugs with badges who are attempting to murder these children. You're watching an attempted murder. Now, whether or not it's successful is absolutely immaterial. That's beside the point. The point is that they tried it. It is our judgment of these events that matters, not theirs. It is our estimation of whether or not they are a threat. They don't get to tell me that they're not a threat. I'm the only one who can determine whether or not they are a threat, and I say that they are. If you have black children, if you know of any black children, you make sure that this kind of thing stops. This is not okay to be done. It is not acceptable. The zero-tolerance policy begins with you. Because if you don't, then what you're doing is you're rolling the dice and you're hoping that this Blake kid, or you're hoping that the criminally used Devontae Hart, you're hoping that this kind of stuff happens, but that it's not going to result in lethal consequences for your child. You're rolling the dice and you're hoping that it doesn't come up snake eyes. Well, then you go ahead and you look your children in the eye and you tell them that, well, I could have made it a point to get between you and the thugs with badges who I knew were gunning for you, but I was just hoping that these monsters were going to discover morality. I was hoping that that kid in Fort Worth was going to humanize you to them, and let's hope that it works. And we're going to ignore the headlines of the other black children who they've gotten to first, and we'll just hope that your child or the child who you care about, we'll hope that they won't be the next victim. Because after all, if you got black people who are telling the police that we're human beings and the police are not changing their program one iota, the police are not rooting out the white supremacists, well, I'm sure you can change a police department by making no changes whatsoever.